Defensive magic is the most basic form of sorcery, first taught to children when they begin learning. As they grow older, most awaken their natural attributes such as fire, water, wind, or earth, and everyone looks forward to the moment their true powers appear. However, there is one boy who is different. Reese can only use defensive magic and has no attribute of his own. People mock him, calling his magic childish, but he isn't deterred and secretly vows to one day change the world with it. Years go by and Reese grows into a young man, but his mischievous streak grows right along with him. One afternoon, a young lady cries out in the street, blaming him for flipping her skirt, and in an instant, three boys charge after him. By the time they blink, he is gone, and when they finally spot him again, he is lounging casually on a rooftop, grinning down at them like a cat who has stolen the cream. The chase that follows could be a comedy. Reese skips across rooftops while the boys trip over everything in sight. Reese even nudges a drum into their path, and with a perfect bounce, it sends them straight into the canal. Despite this, they continue looking for him. When they turn into a narrow street, they find a girl. She is Elliot, his younger sister, already too familiar with the trouble her brother likes to cause. One of the boys tries to yank her along, but before he can move, a barrier flashes into existence and slams him backward. Reese steps forward, eyes burning with anger, and for once his joking nature vanishes. He stands firmly in front of his sister, protective and unyielding. The boys regroup and prevent him from escaping. The largest of them snarls that he will roast Reese with fire, and another mocks that he will drown him with water. They know that Reese's mana-hungry magic barrier won't last for long. Reese tells them to come at him all at once, determined to take them head-on. Elliot trembles beside him, yet her brother looks ready for war. The boys ready their magic, when suddenly a powerful gust of wind blasts them off their feet. They stand stunned, wondering what just happened. From the distance, a clear and commanding voice cuts through the tension. Elliot's face lights up with relief as she recognizes who it is. It is Alfie. The three bullies freeze instantly as they recognize the student council president. They claim they only followed the young lady's orders, but Alfie ignores them, stepping forward to declare Reese his childhood friend whom no one may harm. His words hit like steel, and for once the bullies grit their teeth. Their pride stung, and decide to attack Alfie as well. But with a single movement of his hand, flames roar to life in front of him, forcing them to stagger back in shock. Alfie's calm voice doesn't waver as he warns that if they dare to advance again, he will drown them with water, bury them under stone, or scatter them into the sky with the wind. The boys stare in shock, unable to grasp how Alfie commands all four elements. He stands tall, a prodigy destined to be hailed as a future hero. The bullies whisper frantically, fear spreading across their faces. Alfie smirks and warns them that his left hand is already out of control. If they don't leave now, his next fire spell will incinerate the entire street. The quiet menace in his tone is enough to leave them trembling. Just then, the young lady herself storms onto the scene, furious at the delay. Her tone changes completely when she sees Alfie. With a sweet smile, she asks if the boys troubled him. She even invites him to the upcoming banquet. However, her true nature is revealed when she sees Reese. Her smile drops and she tells Alfie that he should find better friends. She mocks Reese, calling him talentless and unworthy. Alfie cuts her off, declaring she has no right to judge his friends. With a cold gaze, he orders her to leave. Furious and embarrassed, she storms away with her lackeys. Before leaving, the bulky boy glares at Reese and warns him that Alfie cannot protect him forever. Reese glares back coldly and replies, "Alfie saved them, not the other way around." As the air settles, Alfie sighs with relief. Reese teases him about his embarrassing words, but Alfie glares back, asking what trouble he caused this time. Reese grins and explains that it all began when he was helping younger children practice defensive magic. While showing them a trick, the young lady's lackey started mocking him. Then, with a playful smirk, he demonstrated his ultimate skirt-flipping skills. Alfie and Elliot glare at Reese in anger, scolding him for always causing trouble. Unfazed, Reese retorts that he never asked Alfie to step in. Reese's grin fades when a middle-aged man approaches, apologizing for intruding. He watched the fight and mentions the rumors of Alfie wielding all four attributes. Reese eyes him warily, wondering what he wants. But Elliot reminds him that it's none of their business. Talent like Alfie's always draws the wealthy. Reese chuckles, admitting she has a point. Most are born with one attribute, and two are rare. Yet Alfie holds all four, gifted with intellect, composure, and skill. Rumors say he spoke days after birth. He is the typical village genius. Girls chase him for his looks, and even the village chief praises his ideas. He is the complete opposite of our local troublemaker. Reese listens quietly, uneasy, as Elliot wishes he were more serious like Alfie. She reminds him she helps their father while he wastes time. Her scolding cuts deep, and Reese mutters that her words feel like knives. Elliot corners Reese, asking why he snuck into Hades' forest. Stunned, he realizes she found out from her friend's sister. He mutters she played her hand well, but she sternly reminds him their teacher forbade it, since demon beasts roam there. Reese gently pats her head, insisting he only stays near the forest's edge, but when she presses, he admits the truth. He seeks a rare mushroom prized by nobles for its supposed vigor and high price. Elliot bursts in anger, scolding her brother for his reckless risk. Later, Alfie arrives at Reese's home. He brings news that scouts from the capital will soon be visiting their village. Reese lounges lazily in his chair, showing little interest, while Elliot busies herself in the kitchen. She wonders aloud if Alfie will be staying for dinner. Alfie smiles at her diligence and thanks her when she offers to make him tea. Reese, however, tosses a pot into Alfie's lap and tells him to lend a hand with shelling if he's planning to sit around. As they work together, Alfie begins to speak of the genius school of magic, which is famed for selecting only the most extraordinary talents. Every great mage who accomplished something remarkable once studied there, and to this day it stands among the most prestigious institutions in the world. Reese leans back in his chair, unimpressed. Alfie studies him, questioning if expectations ever burden him. Reese only laughs, saying, "Competing with geniuses is a dream far beyond his reach." Alfie senses sarcasm, but Reese just shrugs, used to being seen as talentless. Changing the subject, Alfie says the Genius School of Magic opens in a month and he'll leave next week to prepare. On his way out, he gives a final farewell. Reese waves him off lightly, wishing him well as if releasing a thread he never truly held. Reese smirks, half admitting he might have played some part in it. Placing pods in a pan, his thoughts drift toward a new thrill to stir the calm waters of his life. A week later, Wellius waits by the carriage for the trip to the capital. Alfie arrives, ready, and he urges him to hurry so they can depart. Elsewhere, Reese looks to the horizon, murmuring that Alfie must be gone. Rather than take the week-long safe route, he boldly enters the edge of Hades' forest. Inside the carriage, Alfie sits quietly. Wellius tries to lighten the mood, teasing that perhaps Alfie is sad about leaving his hometown behind. Alfie chuckles softly and replies there is someone in town he has never once defeated in a match. Wellius stares in disbelief. A genius who wields all 4 attributes flawlessly, losing to someone? He blurts out a guess. Perhaps Alfie is speaking of a girl he likes. Alfie only laughs and shakes his head. He explains since childhood, there has always been one boy who bested him in everything. At that same moment, deep within Hades' forest, Reese pushes through thickets when a monstrous beast lunges from behind, fangs bared. In the carriage, Alfie reflects that in another world, Reese could be a true hero. But here fate binds him to an ordinary village, and his secrets remain undiscovered. Wellius listens wide-eyed. Alfie turns away, deciding that soon he will grow stronger at the academy and finally surpass Reese. Reese pushes through thick bushes to a colossal ancient tree, where a small wooden door rests at its roots. Knocking softly, he calls out to someone he calls Grandma. Before he can finish, the door shudders violently as though struck from within. Reese raises an arm to shield himself, realizing this is hardly the moment for polite greetings. The door bursts open, and out springs a wild, barely clothed girl. With startling speed, she kicks Reese in the face, mocking that it's her joy and he should stop coming if he dislikes it. Reese scolds her as immature, saying everyone would freeze if she suddenly appeared naked. She tilts her head, eyes glinting with mischief, and teasingly asks if Reese has been tempted by her beauty. Reese only scoffs, retorting that he prefers curvier women. She huffs, accusing him of teasing her while she bathes, then finally demands to know why he came and what that souvenir is. With a dead beast behind him, he confidently declares it's time to show the world defensive magic like never before. Granny sits on Reese's back, carrying a strange magical tool while he does push-ups. Elsewhere, Alfie drifts into memory, recalling the moment he first realized he had been reincarnated. In his previous life on Earth, he had been an ordinary man, always buried in light novels on the phone, and the idea of other worlds had been nothing but stories. Only after waking here did he truly accept that magic and reincarnation were real. Even so, mastering all 4 elemental attributes was something no one in this world had done before, and with a wry smile, Alfie admits that despite his cheat powers, Reese always bested him. Humbled yet driven, he knows he must leave for the royal capital and join the famed magic academy to one day surpass him. Meanwhile, in the forest, two men chop wood. One man looks up as something whooshes above. His companion calls it imagination, unaware that high above the treetops, Reese and Granny are streaking through the air. Granny cackles that they could never fly without her tool, while Reese grumbles that he feels like a pack animal. She smacks him with her gadget, scolding his ingratitude. Granny points to the road below, and Reese notes a carriage would take a week to reach the capital. She proudly says they'll arrive in under half a day, then later asks if mocking his family was really the right farewell. Reese makes his farewell in his own way, strolling into the house and loudly declaring at the doorway that he is leaving for the royal capital to attend school and will be living there for a long time. His family stare in shock as Reese slips away despite his father's call. Elliot bursts out, finds him gone, vows to teach him a lesson, shouting she'll chew him into pieces, while Reese grins over his shoulder and promises to bring back plenty of goodies. Not long after, the royal capital comes into view, broad and grand, ringed by a wide canal. Granny recalls him to land out of the city, and Reese's breath catches at the sight. Entering the capital, Reese is awed by towering buildings and bustling crowds, mistaking it for a festival before realizing it's everyday city life. Granny, however, fixates on the food stalls, mouth-watering, and Reese smirks, teasing that she hasn't changed. She coughs awkwardly and snaps back, reminding him to focus on the real reason they came here. Their path leads them to the doorstep of the Genius School of Magic. He pauses at the massive enchanted gate, but Granny quickly asks how he plans to support himself in the city. Reese answers that he already sold 3 demon bears to the Hunter Guild. The staff there had been stunned to see the corpses, hardly able to believe one person had taken them down alone. Granny sharply says no one could defeat a demon bear alone, then dismisses it and demands his plan for entering the academy. Reese chuckles that she knows his dream, to prove the worth of mocked defensive magic, even if it means breaking into the school, defeating the principal, and forcing acceptance. Granny collapses laughing until she coughs. When he asks why she's laughing so hard, she smacks him with her stick and says she's mocking his absurd plan. If he dares do something illegal here, he will surely be caught. She advises him to face her pupil first, warning his inexperience would leave him no chance. Reese frowns, asking if she truly knows the headmaster. Granny smiles, saying she hasn't wandered idly. She travels as a messenger and has connections. Reese is stunned that the prestigious headmaster knows her personally. For a moment, he reflects on their long history together. He first met Granny as a child when she saved him in the forest. She called herself a wise hermit who had lived there for over 100 years, obsessed with defensive magic. From then on, she took him under her wing, training him relentlessly and teaching all she knew. Yet he still hesitates to call her master, her laid-back ways making her seem more a mischievous guardian than a strict teacher. Granny eventually hands him a letter and tells him to give it to the headmaster. Reese raises an eyebrow and asks why she came along if a simple letter was all it took. Granny grins and admits she came just to enjoy the sweets of the capital, then strolls off without concern, leaving him to handle things alone. Not long after, Reese presents the wax-sealed letter to the guards. He and Granny are escorted to the headmaster's chamber, where they meet Dist Huberg, an elf with an air of quiet wisdom. The headmaster greets them warmly, offering pastries and tea. Reese digs in with enthusiasm, while Dist remarks that he has already read the letter from the old master. He asks if Reese is her pupil, and Granny's knowing smile answers. Reese wonders about her true age when Dist remarks her handwriting is as messy as ever. Then Reese eagerly leans forward to ask if he's officially enrolled. Dist chuckles and says Reese must first pass a practical exam. Stretching his arms, Reese prepares as the headmaster summons Zest Sinai, a restless, irritated middle-aged man dragged from vacation to oversee the test. Zest mutters he'll judge as he pleases, but Dist firmly reminds him this is no prank. Placing a reassuring hand on Zest's shoulder, Dist turns to Reese and asks what exactly he is doing. Reese casually replies that he is stretching. Dist blinks in surprise, recalling how he once saw soldiers in the barracks perform similar warm-ups. For a moment, he even wonders if magicians might benefit from the same practice. Granny's old habit of stretching before every fight flickers through his memory, and he decides on the spot that perhaps it should be added into the school's training routine. Reese, watching this, mutter, the headmaster might actually be Granny's student. A lady mocks Reese as a commoner, asking how long he'll waste her time. He laughs, ready yet excited under their gaze. Dist explains it's a mock battle against Hireya-sensei, with Zest grading him and no expulsion if he loses. At Dist's signal, the battle begins. Hireya obeys the headmaster but with disdain, scoffing that a commoner like him has entered the genius school of magic. Without hesitation, she fires a blazing flame bullet at him. Zest protests that a teacher should wait for a magic circle, but Dist shrugs, noting Hireya's aristocratic ways. When smoke clears, Reese stands calmly behind a shimmering barrier. Hireya's eyes narrow as she admits it is impressive he blocked her attack, but she quickly raises her voice, accusing him of mocking the school. This academy, she declares, is a place where only the most exceptional bloodlines produce the best talent over generations. She announces that a commoner like him is unworthy and disqualified. Calmly, Reese asks why nobles look down on commoners, fueling Hireya's anger. She fires a blazing flame arrow, which he deflects, and her expression falters. She asks if defensive magic is all he can use, but he just grins. Glowering, she warns him and casts the great flame ball. Zest panics, noting Reese's barrier drains energy, but Dist assures he'll heal him if needed. The fireball crashes, yet Reese stands firm. A faint smile plays across his face, and Hireya actually looks shaken. Zest himself stares in awe, whispering that he has never seen a barrier withstand something of that scale. And according to Granny's letter, Reese is supposed to use only defensive magic, nothing more. Dist realizes this boy might be far more precious than anyone suspected. Hireya, however, refuses to believe it. She shouts that it is impossible, accusing Reese of fraud, insisting no beginner's magic should have such strength. Reese answers calmly, almost cheekily, saying he means no disrespect. But honestly, this exam feels easier than he expected. That single remark sets her temper ablaze. Her magic flares wildly as she begins casting her ultimate spell, flames expanding outward to cover the entire arena in burning light. Zest stiffens the moment Hireya begins chanting, recognizing the danger. A storm of 20 flame arrows burst forth, each laced with an intricate circle structure. Unlike before, the flame spear carries a sharp, penetrating force, weaker than the great flame ball but far more lethal against barriers. Zest warns the headmaster that the boy can't withstand such magic and might be killed, even beyond his skills. Dist stays calm, reminding him the boy is the pupil of a great wise woman, leaving Zest struggling to grasp how she could choose him. Granny never valued Dist's abilities, offering only minor advice. Dist assures Reese's safety, seeing this as a chance to witness Granny's secrets. Zest swallows hard as Dist watches Reese intently. On the battlefield, Reese exhales softly. He admits to himself that he might have gone too far teasing Hireya, and defending against her endless flames is becoming troublesome. Yet a sly smirk creeps across his face. As Hireya's spell launches forward, Reese thrusts his hand outward and delivers a blow to her. Both Zest and Dist get very amazed on watching a huge smash. The story then shifts to the first day of the new school term. The headmaster greets the gathered students warmly. Alfie beams with pride, thinking to himself that he is finally an official student of the prestigious academy. The headmaster continues, declaring that the teachers here are the finest in the land. He gestures to Wellius, who downplays his skills, though the headmaster jokes the school wouldn't be worth attending without him. His gaze then shifts to Hireya, noting she seems shattered in pride. Alfie frowns, hoping it's not about him, but his hope shatters as the headmaster announces the top scorer, Reese. Striding to the stage, Reese admits he didn't ace the exam, but declares his dream to become the strongest mage, using defensive magic to conquer the world. Alfie groans, burying his face in his hands, regretting having found him. One day, Alfie corners Reese against the wall, his face twisted in anger. Reese casually slips his hands into his pockets and laughs. Alfie spits out his question, demanding to know how Reese managed to get into the school. Reese calmly recounts how he came there. Alfie scowls and, noting Reese's advantages like a late exam, leniency, and perfect score. He mutters about cheating, and Reese retorts, recalling the ridiculous entrance ceremony declaration. Reese proudly confirms. Alfie whispers to Reese that he definitely made most of the folks his enemy. He laughs loud enough to make Alfie wince, and that laugh stabs directly into his pride. Pointing to himself, Alfie declares himself Reese's enemy, no longer a friend, and vows to target him after defeating Kadena Fire. Reese, curious, asks who Kadena is, and Alfie explains she ranked just below him and would have topped the exam if not for Reese. Kadena, a beautiful young lady with outstanding talent, was naturally placed in the noble class. She has the pride of a lifelong top student, but now her dream has been shattered by Reese's unexpected victory. Sure enough, when Kadena approaches Reese, she rudely glares at Reese. However, he is too busy teasing Alfie to care. Later, on the training grounds, Zest steps forward and introduces himself as the instructor of the noble class. Reese raises his brows in surprise while Kadena asks why this position wasn't given to Urea. Zest admits the duty was originally hers. Reese mutters that Urea likely had a breakdown, while Alfie whispers someone here is destined for an early grave. Kadena watches Reese warily, suspecting if he caused it. To ease tension, Zest places a crystal sphere on the table to measure magic power. Touching it reveals one's internal source and innate strength. He demonstrates, then explains the external source. Ambient magic mages can absorb to replenish reserves, though training only speeds absorption, not maximum power, making this a world of talents. Students line up one by one and continue measurements. A boy from the noble Ramos family, Barca Amos, reveals strong earth attributes. Next, Kadena steps forward, her crystal shining brilliantly, marking her as an exceptional wielder of wind magic. Then Alfie presses his hand against the sphere. Instantly, the hall fills with dazzling rays like the sun itself. Zest declares this is the first time he's ever seen someone capable of wielding all attributes. Finally, Reese volunteers. Zest, suspicious, allows it. Reese touches the crystal. Nothing. Silence falls as even Zest wonders how a boy who crushed Urea could show no power. The thought gnaws at him. He remembers questioning the headmaster earlier about why Zest was assigned to the noble class. Dist had explained that Urea couldn't be trusted with someone in such a fragile condition, and, more importantly, he wanted Zest's own evaluation of Reese. Zest worries that a talentless fraud atop the school would ruin its reputation. Barca Amos sneers, mocking Reese for ranking first as a worthless commoner, and tells him to go home before more humiliation. Reese glares sharply. Reese ignores him, staring at the crystal like the one in Granny's hut. Light bursts forth, a blinding stream that makes students shield their eyes as gasps ripple through the hall. Zest freezes in shock, wondering how such a sudden rise in magic power could even be possible. In the capital, Granny delights in a massive parfait, savoring every bite with gleaming eyes. Dist, embarrassed, notes it's too much for one, but Granny refuses to share, claiming she has nothing for him. Dist sighs behind his teacup, noting it's been too long since he shared tea with his old master. Granny chuckles he could wait 10 or 20 more years, and Dist coldly admits she hasn't changed. At the training grounds, Kadena launches a wind spike, earning Zest's praise. Another boy's power is strong but fails to crack the reinforced target. Zest explains that most teachers couldn't break it and announces the next phase, testing raw magical force with their strongest spells. Naturally, all eyes turn to the top student, and Zest calls Reese forward. Reese shrugs and steps into place while Zest narrows his eyes, suspicious that the boy will try something strange again. Elsewhere, Granny asks Dist how he tracked her down. He explains the gatekeeper remembered her traveling with a boy. Granny then asks if he truly values Reese or if it's mere curiosity. Dist replies with a serious face that Reese shocked everyone when he broke Urea's strength, even destroying a stone wall with nothing more than a clap. His movements, his magic, even his breathing were impossible to sense for average magicians. That proved he wasn't ordinary. Dist admits he wants to know more, but Granny only smiles, noting he's finally shown genuine personality. On the training field, Reese throws a spell, Casting Reflection, the most demanding of all defensive magic, the kind of spell that should be impossible to maintain with bare hands. Yet here stands Reese, pouring all of his pride and defiance into it. For years this magic had been mocked as useless, but now he casts it with the weight of every insult ever thrown at him. Light erupts like a storm, shattering the wall behind the target. Silence falls. Zest mutters in awe at the highest magic density he's seen, held with bare hands, a pupil chosen by the great wise woman herself. In the capital, Granny wipes her spoon clean and smugly refuses Dist again, telling him there are no shortcuts in the search for knowledge. She suddenly asks if he still considers himself a magician, and when he apologizes for prying, she smirks and tells him to watch closely, for her pupil is only beginning to reveal his true strength. At the arena battlefield, Reese stands before Latos Gnork, the eldest of the Gnork house, with a large crowd watching. Reese is calm while Latos prepares for the fight, and the air feels full of excitement for a legendary duel. A few days earlier, Reese ate in the cafeteria with suspicious delight, as if starved for good food. Alfie approached, frowning, and questioned how he could afford tuition and admission. Reese casually explained that he had earned the money by selling spoils of his hunts to the Hunter Guild. Alfie, uneasy, raised a wind barrier, as Reese explained the 3 hunts and the wild demon bear came from Head Forest. Doubting it, Alfie asked how Reese brought them into the city. Reese then displayed a necklace hanging at his chest. At the sight of it, Alfie froze and realized it was a storage box. At the departure celebration, Reese was given this storage box as a parting gift by Granny. He explained to Alfie that its capacity was more than one warehouse house, making it highly valuable. Alfie immediately assumed that this was why Reese had filled it with 3 demon bears. While eating, Reese noticed noise outside and wondered what was happening. Alfie explained he contained the disturbance with a wind barrier, caused by his own mistakes. Outside, Latos fired aqua bullets repeatedly, and academy staff arrived. Reese suggested leaving quietly, but Alfie said it was too late. The staff member assigned duty to Zest to investigate the matter. Zest noticed Reese acting strangely and suspected him. Alfie glared at Reese, and Zest demanded an explanation. Reese pointed at Alfie, who then pointed to a blue-haired figure as the real culprit. Latos stepped forward, annoyed, clarifying his hair wasn't blue and identifying himself as the eldest Ganoarch son. Zest explained that the Ganoarchs were a prestigious family skilled in water magic. He recounted how the conflict began around lunch break, when one of the Ganoarch cronies tried to cut the cafeteria line, pushing Latos to the front. Reese had taken offense and shoved the boy back, escalating the matter until both sides clashed. Latos, insulted by being forced behind, refused to queue like commoners. Enraged when a wind wall blocked him, he began firing magical attacks, leading to the current confrontation. At the academy, Zest reminded everyone that all students were treated the same, no matter their family background, which meant Latos was in the wrong. Zest decided to punish both Reese and Latos, but he got confused. He then said one of them must still be punished, but he could not decide who was truly at fault. Zest then asked if any of them had a suggestion. Without hesitation, Latos pointed at Reese and challenged him to a duel to settle the matter. Alfie was shocked, thinking Latos had just invited his own downfall. Reese only smiled as if the idea amused him. The next day, Reese and Alfie stood outside, knowing duels required teacher approval through the academy's system. Reese was annoyed at waiting for the arena, while Alfie expected the campus to watch if Reese could prove his entrance trial claim. Alfie had told Latos that Reese was top, but Latos only laughed. He confirmed the battle, boldly claiming he would defeat Reese and rise to the noble class, mocking Reese's defensive magic and insisting he could never win. Now Alfie tells Reese that he has been asked to serve as a commentator for the match. Normally this job belongs to a teacher, but somehow he got the role. Reese mentions it means he can go all out in explaining and making them acknowledge defensive magic as Reese's life objective. The day of the battle finally arrives. A lady announces that the first fight of the year is about to begin. Alfie, standing nearby, jokes that the huge crowd makes it feel more like a festival than a duel, except the festival highlight will be Reese's humiliation. The announcer introduces herself as Saradona Maxi, reporting live, and declares that Reese's best friend Alfie will be serving as commentator. Saradona asks Alfie to explain the events leading up to the duel. Alfie simply replies that a blue-haired guy challenged Reese, and Reese responded, "That's all the crowd needs to know." Saradona cheers for both fighters as the containment zone activates. She announces the stage is ready, though the headmaster corrects her, calling it the official Dream Realm. Within this realm, physical events transform into dreamlike simulations. Any injuries sustained vanish once the realm deactivates. Saradona adds that the headmaster himself supervises, a gesture meant to inspire the students on the first match of the year. Alfie explains that Zest was originally assigned to supervise, but he declines, preferring to watch the duel up close. Sitting nearby, Kadena appears lost in thought, eyes fixed on the stage. Before the fight begins, Saradona outlines the rules. Victory comes if a fighter forces their opponent to surrender or renders them unable to continue, meaning removal from the stage. Using magical equipment without a permit is strictly prohibited. Dist reminds Reese that his full pressure cannon is forbidden, and Reese nods. At the headmaster's signal, the duel begins. Latos wastes no time, launching a relentless barrage of aqua bullets in a Gatling-style attack. Reese stands firm, forming a glowing barrier that effortlessly blocks each projectile. Saradona comments that the audience came to see powerful offensive magic, not someone hiding behind defenses, laughing at the notion that a defensive-only mage could even attend the academy. She turns to Alfie, asking if Reese truly relies solely on defensive magic despite being the top student. Alfie explains sharply that defensive magic is generally undervalued due to inefficiency. Attribute magic unleashes power directly, while defensive spells must solidify that energy into barriers, meaning what one unit of energy accomplishes for an offensive spell requires 3 or 4 for defense. Defensive magic is simple, taught to kids for self-protection. Alfie grins. Reese is still playing the recorder while others compose symphonies. He laughs, remarking that Reese has no common sense for choosing such a strategy. Latos casts a double spell, launching a water grenade at Reese. Reese's barrier holds firm against the explosion, drawing gasps from the arena. Saradona leans forward, eyes wide. She has never seen a barrier strong enough to withstand such an attack. Lowering her voice as if sharing a secret, she suggests that Reese might be revealing an extraordinary power. Dist studies the scene, questioning if it is part of Reese's plan, noting he has seen defensive magic before but never like this. Reese explains the shape of the barrier, speculating it is a honeycomb structure. Alfie confirms. Reese stacks hundreds of barrier panels into hexagonal formations, a design that absorbs impacts and reduces the energy needed to maintain the shield to a quarter of normal. The audience reacts with awe, and Dis smiles, saying the mystery of defensive magic is finally solved. Alfie admits he should have recognized it sooner, and explains that even a great barrier requires a magic circle, but Reese's speed makes him exceptional. A voice from the crowd mocks Reese. He spins sharply, ordering them to call him cool instead. Laughter and murmurs ripple through the arena. Alfie mutters that Reese's peculiar personality is why defensive magic remains doubted. Latos calls out, retracting his earlier skepticism, asserting that while defensive magic might pass exams, duels are different. He fires a wave of water balls, but Reese blocks every attack with ease. Latos's disbelief grows. He realizes that as long as Reese's defenses hold, he cannot be defeated. Saradona shouts, energized, noting that Reese is not merely defending, he is dominating the duel. Latos sneers, insisting Reese can never harm him. Reese smirks and dashes forward, low and cutting, taunting Latos for underestimating defense as offense. He bypasses the water balls, striking Latos's chest with a glowing barrier gauntlet. The first blow has no effect. Sensing a hidden resistance, Reese strikes again, cracking the surface before shattering the shield. Latos staggers, fear flashing in his eyes. Reese readies another strike. In panic, Latos unleashes a stream of water, which Reese dodges effortlessly, moving in circles at a speed that stuns the crowd. Saradona gasps, recognizing another specialized technique, and glances at Alfie. Calmly, Alfie explains it is no trick. The power comes purely from Reese's legs. As the shield breaks, Reese gets a shock to see the breast. Granny stands on the arena wall, her cloak touching the stone. She smiles proudly, seeing Reese in the center with everyone watching. Then her face changes, feeling something is wrong. Down in the field, Reese suddenly freezes. His eyes widen at the sight of Latos's chest plate shifting oddly, and he blurts out that this is foul play. With mock seriousness, he declares that smuggling such a weapon is unfair, especially one shaped like a battering ram. Latos fires another spell. A burst of water magic streaks forward, and Reese flips back with quick reflexes, planting his feet and raising a barrier in time to block the impact. The crowd gasps at the magic clash. Saradona's voice cuts through, saying the tide has turned again, as Reese's movements slow. Latos grins and calls out that Reese cannot run this time. He claims he has not been blindly firing magic, and suddenly aqua bullets appear all around, surrounding Reese like a ring of glowing drops. Reese looks from side to side, unsure for a moment, while the audience leans in to see what happens next. Latos boasts no shield protecting all sides. Saradona spots the trick, announcing to the crowd that Latos's water spells pool around Reese, forming a trap, not just an attack. The crowd murmurs, impressed by the strategy. Reese lifts his hand and forms a wide, spherical barrier around himself. He sneers at Latos through the glow, and the noble's confident look falters. Alfie scratches his head in confusion, but Saradona quickly explains that although the shape is different, the barrier still carries the honeycomb pattern. Zest blinks, then narrows his eyes, sensing something off. Dist, nearby, agrees, muttering that Latos's magic seems too strong. He covers his mouth, wondering if someone's using a hidden tool to meddle in the fight. Reese frowns inside the barrier, muttering that the situation is strange. He keeps glancing at the headmaster, trying to signal that the fight cannot continue like this. Dist notices and gestures back, reminding him of the dream realm, the very space holding the duel. Alfie looks around, lost. He sees no problem with the stage and cannot understand why Reese looks unsettled. In truth, the headmaster has already adjusted the dream realm from the moment Latos' breastplate slipped away. He took over as supervisor on purpose, knowing more about the real state of Latos than anyone else. Zest shoots him a cold stare, but the headmaster remains calm. Dist knows the duel is risky, but believes students must show their full power. He vowed to protect them, yet wants to see their true potential. Reese glances at Dist with one eye, whispering if this much is allowed. Then, with his usual odd humor, he mutters that it is hard to focus when Latos' chestplate keeps drawing attention. Meanwhile, Latos steadies himself, sweat on his brow. He fixes his eyes on Reese's shield and notices a weak spot forming at one edge. Gathering his strength, he casts a howling stream directly at it. The blast tears through, sending Reese flying back across the field. He whispers that such power is strange because even in the entrance exam he could not pull off this kind of spell. Reese stiffens as another howling stream barrels toward him. The roar of water shakes the arena, and Zest's eyes widen. This level of advanced water control is a mark of the Ganoark family, the very power that makes them famous. Latos grins coldly, shaping the water into a dragonic wave. The shimmering beast rises above him as he sneers that Reese's barrier is nothing but decoration and that he will crush him with force that cannot be blocked. The tension climbs, the crowd leaning forward, knowing the moment of decision is near. The dragon wave crashes forward, and Reese realizes he cannot hold ground if he remains pinned in the air. With a sharp breath, he flashes the reflection technique, his figure bending like light and shifting position in an instant. Latos scoffs and shouts that such tricks will not save him. But in a blur, Reese reappears behind him, his movements sharp as lightning. Gasps ripple through the stands. Saradona stumbles over her words, and the crowd explodes with surprise at his speed. Dist leans forward, murmuring that this reflection move never appeared in Reese's exam. He wonders if the boy can truly glide through the sky in any direction, though such mastery must have come at the cost of countless painful falls. His voice lowers in respect as he whispers that Granny really is remarkable. Up on the wall, Granny munches a cookie and smirks at the sight. She remembers the first time Reese crash-landed in the Hades forest while practicing that very move. Compared to her merciless training, those falls were nothing, and she knows the boy has been practicing from the start. Alfie presses his lips together, his eyes locked on the fight. He has no time to tease Reese, not while the dragon wave still rages and the outcome remains undecided. Reese steadies himself, sneering as he rushes forward to deliver what could be the final blow. But halfway through, his eyes flicker once again toward the exaggerated curve of Latos' chest plate. He freezes for a heartbeat, muttering that no one could expect him to be reasonable in front of such a distraction. He shakes his head at his own thoughts and wonders if he really has to leap against that battering ram. He steps forward anyway, preparing reflection. Again, but the headmaster suddenly calls out, warning him. Reese ignores the hesitation and channels everything into a single spell. A massive magic cannon roars from his hands, striking Latos head-on and hurling him back. Reese's chest tightens, fearing Latos' fall could expose the mountains beyond the barrier. The headmaster swiftly stabilizes the dream realm. Reese exhales, recalling that here, real events become dreamlike illusions. Latos collapses, eyes closed. Saradona raises her voice, declaring him unable to continue. The arena erupts as she announces the winner, Reese Lovis. Dist strokes his chin, remarking that this cannon magic can be passed off as a different type of spell. Reese simply raises his hand in quiet victory. Granny laughs on the wall, joking that her student's distraction by a girl's chest shows she didn't train him hard enough. Saradona shakes her head, telling Alfie she cannot figure out the ending at all. She wonders aloud if it was equipment malfunction or something else entirely. Wallians pats Alfie on the shoulder, reminding him that his own match is up next. In the stands, a voice mutters that Reese truly is the top student, as he claimed. Kadena glares at a girl whispering shy admiration for Reese's performance. Reese is congratulated for his victory, while Latos is also acknowledged for his determination. Faculty members lead Latos out of the arena, and Saradona excites the crowd with the announcement of the next battle featuring Alfie-san. A short break begins as the stage is prepared once more. Near the stairs, Reese approaches the headmaster with curiosity about the mystery surrounding Latos. Kadena passes by and notices their quiet exchange, while Dist arrives with documents in hand. He explains that Latos has been officially recognized as the next head of the Gnoarch family, with no errors found in repeated verifications. Reese wonders about Latos' siblings, and Dist shares that there once was an elder brother who died in an accident 10 years ago, leaving behind only a younger sister. Reese's thoughts sharpen. It seems the younger sister is forced to assume the role of the elder brother. Dist remains composed, reminding Reese that some truths are difficult to grasp and best left unspoken. He insists that the secret must not be revealed. Reese accepts the weight of this and questions why Latos was allowed to enroll in the academy. Dist reflects that talent such as hers should not be wasted, and despite the circumstances, he could not turn her away. As a teacher, he carries that responsibility. His gaze then lingers on Reese, filled with expectation, for he holds many hopes for this pupil who continues to surprise him. As the duel preparations near completion, Reese departs. Dist, however, chuckles to himself, eager for the moment when Reese's true strength will shine again. Yet in that quiet, the headmaster's eyes harden. A strange intent stirs within him. He considers striking Reese from behind, prying open his secrets through force. His position restrains him, torn between duty and temptation. Just as his resolve sharpens, a sudden knock interrupts the silence. The visitor enters and Dist quickly takes charge, urging restraint and offering advice before the meeting can proceed. In the corridor, Reese reflects that the headmaster's murderous intent seemed to fade, perhaps born from anger over the magic cannon, though he himself had permitted its use. The thought lingers, but Reese moves on. Passing by a room, Reese finds Latos resting. He enters and offers a quiet apology. Latos drifts in troubled thought, burdened by family expectations, the pressure of the exam, and the role of heir. Though discouraged, determination still burns within him. Reese's voice draws him back, and he wakes abruptly, startled at first before composing himself. Reese assures him that the rest has been enough and notes that he remains uninjured. Latos reflects on the battle, realizing that his belief in his own superiority was shallow. The strength of defensive magic has humbled him, and he recognizes how immature he still is. Yet, pride remains. He refuses to see this as his end and vows that one day he will surpass Reese. Reese smiles at the thought of rivalry, while Latos extends a hand, offering both competition and friendship. Reese hesitates, distracted by the secret he now knows, yet accepts the gesture with a laugh. Both acknowledge the fun of their duel and the promise of more to come. Reese scratches his head, jokingly framing Latos as an opponent worth studying, while Latos responds with laughter, unaware of the secret thought Reese hides, that beneath the guise of air, she is in truth a girl. Their talk shifts to the punishment for losing. Latos accepts the burden of cleaning the vast schoolyard, noting that water magic makes such a task simple. Reese considers offering help but restrains himself, wary of suspicion. They both share a laugh before remembering that the next battle is about to begin. Saradona rallies the audience once more as Alfie steps forward, cheerful yet focused. His opponent, a glass-wearing boy, reveals himself through childish antics. Though his academic standing is strong, it is the same boy who once challenged Alfie in class. Determined, Alfie prepares to face him, while the boy holds tightly to a secret he claims to know. Elsewhere, Latos is seen chasing after Reese, frustration clear as Reese scrambles with apologies. The chase spills into the corridor where an unexpected presence emerges. Kadena steps forward, observing both Reese and Latos, before a girl stops Reese and introduces herself as Muriel Woodrow, a first-year student. Without hesitation, she takes Reese's hand and presses it against her chest, boldly declaring her interest in him. Reese is left stunned, frozen in disbelief. As Reese feels Muriel press against him, a strange sensation overwhelms him, soft and heavy, almost like being struck by a giant morning star. Before the moment lingers, Kadena steps in sharply, pulling Muriel away and scolding the scene. Her sudden interruption leaves both Reese and Latos stunned. Kadena insists this is not the proper way to confess, reminding that a woman should protect her dignity. Muriel, however, argues confidently, claiming that such an approach is a rational act, since it is well known that men are easily swayed by women's bodies. Latos is startled by her boldness, realizing Muriel carries a confidence she herself lacks. Kadena interprets Muriel's intent, allowing a man such liberties to ensure he falls in love. Muriel, unfazed, remains firm. Suddenly, Latos flicks magic at Reese's forehead, erasing the memory of that reckless touch as if it had never happened. Muriel then shifts the focus, praising Reese's duel and the abnormal power of his defensive magic. Latos mutters that her words carry an undertone, almost branding Reese as a pervert, while Kadina's patience snaps, calling Reese unworthy of any affection. Yet Muriel insists otherwise. In her eyes, Reese's defensive magic hides many secrets, and she desires to uncover them all. To her, becoming closer to him is the only way. Reese feels awkward, resisting the unwanted attention. Popularity of this kind is the last thing he wants. Meanwhile, in the arena, Alfie faces his opponent. The boy with glasses smirks with confidence, revealing dangerous knowledge. He knows of Alfie's reincarnation. Alfie recalls his early days in the royal capital when he discreetly sold recipes from his past life for income. The only way his opponent could know this truth is if he too carries memories of another life. Hatred flares in the boy, who blames Alfie for his misfortune and seeks to expose him as weak. The crowd grows tense as Saradona comments that such insults dishonor Alfie, whose victory they firmly believe in. Reese and Latos move aside to watch, though Muriel quietly trails behind. Kadina, skeptical, considers Alfie to be frail despite his ability to wield 4 attributes. She remembers that no one has actually witnessed it clearly, as the measuring device once broke during his test. Reese mutters that this duel will reveal their future hero's true potential. Kadina reflects on the rarity of 4 attributes. 2 marks promise, 3 signals a genius, but 4 has only ever belonged to legends. The girls roar, cheering Alfie's name. Reese got jealous and wishes for Alfie to face danger. Latos, curious, asks about their bond, but Reese simply states they are friends. Alfie suddenly glances at Reese and slightly laughs. The Dream Realm activates and the battle begins. Standard flames are hurled first, a customary test of strength. Alfie counters with water, then wind, then earth, each attack steady and precise. Saradona announces with excitement that the rumors of his 4 attributes are true, and even blurts marriage admiration for him. The audience gasps as the opponent escalates, projecting intermediate-level flame arrows with startling speed. Zest acknowledges his talent, but the boy's arrogance fuels him further. He proclaims that having multiple attributes means nothing without mastery, and he intends to expose Alfie as unskilled. The battle intensifies. Both duelists cancel out each other's spells, their magic clashing brilliantly. Alfie's opponent mocks him, accusing him of relying only on wind and not daring to flood the field with water. He laughs wildly, believing it impossible for Alfie to maintain projections across multiple attributes at once. But then, Alfie reveals something extraordinary. With a sudden shift, Alfie conjures a barrier of wind while simultaneously weaving fire, water, and earth into a restructured circle. The opponent falters, shocked by the precision. Wellius recognizes it instantly, a quadruple projection, a feat so complex it borders on the impossible. Saradona explains to the crowd that such technique requires immense speed and flawless accuracy. Memories flash of Alfie's earlier duel exams, where even then he displayed this overwhelming potential. Zest mutters that Alfie makes it look like child's play. Reese recalls a conversation with him, where Alfie compared the technique to writing multiple letters in different languages at the same time, each hand moving independently. The opponent trembles, fear creeping into his voice as denial takes over. He claims it is fake, that Alfie is deceiving everyone. But the reality stands firm before his eyes. Alfie's control is real, his talent undeniable. Pressured, the boy collapses, surrendering his pride and bowing in defeat. The arena erupts. Saradona declares Alfie the victor while Zest acknowledges the effort of his fallen opponent. Alfie, uncertain, wonders if he makes a blunder, yet the truth is clear. His brilliance has shaken the academy to its core. That day, 2 duels burned brighter than the rest, igniting fierce rivalry among students. In the corridor afterward, passing voices praise defensive magic, and Alfie stiffens with irritation. The next battle looms, and his gaze turns toward Reese Lovis. The next morning begins like always for Reese, who never skips his routine. But today he comes across something unusual. Muriel is lying near the footpath, seemingly senseless, and no one else is around. Reese is startled to see her so early. When he calls out, she stirs only faintly, whispering that she wants more sleep. For a moment, his gaze slips toward her chest, and his hand twitches instinctively, but he reins himself in, scolding himself to stay calm. Before he can dwell on it further, Alfie arrives, catching him in the act of hesitation. Their usual banter sparks, with Reese insisting on his innocence and Alfie mocking his weak excuses. Memories of old days resurface, of Reese's complaints about being single, and Alfie doesn't let the chance to tease slip by. Soon their playful words turn into challenge, and the square becomes their arena. Reese tries to keep it fair by forbidding magic, while Alfie agrees, pointing out the destruction it would cause if either of them unleashed spells. They clash with raw force, their kicks countering each other, blows flying in rhythm with their rivalry. Alfie laughs mid-fight, recalling how even Wellius once admitted that Reese was someone impossible to surpass. His words land heavier than his strikes, hinting at the respect hidden beneath rivalry. Reese, however, only stares oddly, uncertain of Alfie's sudden sincerity. The duel fizzles as quickly as it flares, and Alfie picks up his coat and leaves for the cafeteria. Muriel, who had been watching silently, suddenly rises. She confesses her strange ploy, to bait Reese by feigning vulnerability, hoping to provoke a desire she could later use as leverage. Yet her plan collapses when Reese never acts on impulse. Embarrassed, she admits defeat, leaving Reese unsettled by her audacity. Reese discovers Alfie's ticket, which he had dropped there. Soon after, the training grounds buzz with energy, with duels becoming the talk of the academy. Even after-class hours are crowded. Zest keeps the students in line, scolding anyone who treats practice lightly, reminding them that proper rest fuels magical strength. He demonstrates how attributes like water, wind, earth, and fire are absorbed, and warns that neglecting rest weakens a magician. The tests begin, with Alfie at the forefront. He invokes the dragon within, unleashing power, but the reinforced board does not break. He tries again, considering advanced techniques, yet still fails. His frustration mounts while Zest denies every request for extra chances. Reese, standing among the students, is reminded sharply not to overdo it himself. Barca, who harbors jealousy toward Reese, seizes the moment to provoke him. He issues a sudden duel challenge, but Reese brushes it aside, unwilling to waste time. Their exchange leaves tension lingering in the air. Later, Reese, Alfie, Latos, and Muriel find themselves at a famous sweets shop. Lured by a buffet ticket, Reese proudly waves. The shop is crowded, the line stretching out the door, but the group manages to secure seats. Alfie also reveals that he shared his recipes at that shop. For a moment, Reese's mood lightens, with Muriel declaring her love for sweets as well as Reese, Lotus sulking at her enthusiasm, and Reese scheming ways to skip the line. Yet shadows follow them. Kadena, disguised in plain clothes, watches from a distance, calling Reese her mortal enemy. Her wind magic conceals her presence, but a strange little girl's sharp eyes almost give her away. As she prepares an ambush, Reese turns back and senses the strike just in time and blocks it. He considers Barca attacked him. Chaos erupts. Barca appears again, seething with rage, grabbing Reese by the tie and demanding the duel he was promised. The crowded street grows tense, but Lotus urges calm, reminding them that innocents surround them. Barca refuses to listen and lashes out, only to be stopped by a firm grip on his arm. The man who intervenes is no ordinary bystander. He is a royal guard. Barca protests his lineage, but his words hold no weight. The guards beat him down, swelling his face with blows, while Reese is left both relieved and unsettled. The guards then turn to Reese, acknowledging his effort in controlling the damage with defensive magic, and request his presence at the guard station to explain what happened. Reese, though unwilling, has no choice but to comply. As he is led away, he mocks Barca one last time, promising that their score will be settled in a duel another day. Everyone is sitting together drinking tea. Lotus casually remarks things seem ready to get messy again, especially since Barca looks prepared for another beating from Reese. Reese agrees and grumbles about how his cake was ruined last time because of Barca. But near Alfie, Reese simply wanted free tickets to enjoy. Reese waves him off. Anything belonging to Alfie already belongs to him. Laughingly, Alfie warns him not to act like Gian from Doraemon. Muriel softly adds that in her own world, Gian is actually her love rival. Reese sighs, already preparing himself for another dramatic Muriel moment. Lotus tries to change the mood and looks at Reese for details. Reese explains shortly. Barca used magic in the street. The guards dragged him away. Alfie recalls Barca has a match with Reese in 2 days, but might end up stuck in jail for a whole week. Muriel's expression drops immediately. She turns to Lotus and wonders why she doesn't simply offer Reese another challenge. Lotus blushes. After losing, the rules do not allow an immediate rematch. She also knows deep down that Reese losing again is almost impossible. Her tone carries a soft hint of fondness, and Reese notices it. Muriel then nudges Alfie and pretends she has forgotten who he is. Reese groans. She has talked to Alfie for ages and should stop acting confused. Lotus comments Alfie is the boy with 4 attributes. Alfie seems annoyed, while Muriel claims she only got distracted because of the cake incident. Reese's irritation melts away, and he suddenly bursts out laughing as if none of it mattered. Lotus quietly observes and asks Muriel if she looks at Alfie's 4-attribute talent. It is similar to how Reese obsesses defensive magic. Muriel dismisses it immediately and openly admits she still prefers Reese. Reese nudges Alfie, hinting that even Muriel has better taste. All of a sudden, Alfie flicks Reese on the cheek. Reese yells and asks why he gave him the punch. Muriel wonders if Alfie plans to challenge Reese again, but Alfie stiffens and insists he won't rely on cheap tricks to win. At that moment, Kadena appears behind them, clearly having overheard everything, especially the part about Reese and Alfie growing up in the same place and barely fighting since they joined the school. She also hints Alfie seems scared of Reese these days. Alfie exhales deeply and answers that she doesn't understand how many times he has already been beaten. Then he steps closer and warns her instead, hinting that she is the one uneasy around Reese. Kadena freezes and stares at him, tension flickering between them. Reese laughingly interrupts, saying none of them can beat him anyway. Outside the school building, Reese heads out for magic practice. Lotus and Muriel settle nearby. Reese notices them and asks the reason for being there. Lotus explains they want to clear up something about magic. Muriel, on the other hand, admits she simply feels more romantic when she stays near him. Lotus notices Muriel's way of trapping Reese to learn magic secrets. Reese chuckles and warns that if they seriously want to learn defensive magic, they have to understand a few essential points. Lotus jumps into training, and Reese explains the 6 fundamentals they must master before the honeycomb barrier becomes natural. The shape and size of each cell must stay even, which already seems difficult for both girls. He assures them he is not hiding anything and says people underestimate defensive magic. But once its depth becomes clear, it is far from ordinary, Muriel whispers to Lotus. Reese probably still has secrets, but he ignores the comment and urges them to keep practicing. He returns to his own training, while Lotus observes him closely. His technique doesn't resemble a normal magic circle, and she suspects some special method must be helping him maintain stability. She then glances at Muriel, wondering if she stays close to Reese for magic reasons. Muriel looks clueless, so Lotus drops the question. Reese quietly stares at Muriel. On the other side, Barca recalls when his younger brother congratulates him for entering the magic school. Barca reassures him that he too will become a great magician someday and bring pride to their family. He takes his brother down the corridor, but suddenly a horrifying image flashes through his mind. Reese using honeycomb magic and pushing him into a deep pit while his younger brother watches helplessly. Barca jolts awake from the nightmare. He uses ill words for Reese. At the same time, Reese heads back across the school grounds because he left his uniform in the training area. When he enters Other Side, he finds Kadena releasing strong spells even at this late hour. It seems she is in anger and practicing for a battle. He admires her effort and compliments her from behind before turning to leave so he doesn't interrupt. Kadena says she's finishing anyway, but as she steps forward, her foot slips. She falls and Reese catches her, making her land directly on top of him. Flustered and embarrassed, she pushes herself up. She reminds him that her family carries heavy expectations that commoners like Reese can never understand. She admits she does not want to be the best, but she must be at the top. Reese lies there wondering when she plans to get off him because her weight is crushing his ribs. Kadena finally steadies herself and questions why he works so hard despite not having an attribute, even calling him handicapped. Reese calmly lifts her off and explains that he isn't handicapped at all. He simply enjoys non-attribute magic and treats it like a hobby. Kadena stares at him, speechless, while Reese walks away satisfied, already guessing she will explode later. She soon understands why Reese always manages to irritate her. Meanwhile, in the jail, a lady with his face covered appears before Barca. She claims he knows exactly how Barca can defeat Reese. Barca weirdly stares at her. Quickly, he recalls when the headmaster gave him some advice. Beating Reese isn't difficult at all, if Barca first learns how to take full control over him. The next day in the arena, a boy no one recognizes signs up for a match with Reese. Saradona wonders about this mysterious challenger who appears out of nowhere but carries an unusual amount of energy. Reese stands ready, eager to teach him a lesson while the Muriel tries to figure out who the boy even is. Muriel and Lotus watch closely. Lotus whispers that he must be the same boy who didn't see her match against Reese. Muriel thinks watching this fight might just be a waste of time. When the match begins, Saradona pulls Alfie beside her for commentary. The unknown boy throws a spell at Reese with full force, but Reese fires his own spell at the exact same moment. The match ends instantly. Saradona and Alfie freeze in disbelief. Lotus calmly comments that the poor boy lost everything in the very first hit. Alfie does not seem thrilled by Reese's victory. Reese tells the boy challenged him first, but it ended up meaningless. Alfie says most people still don't understand how Reese's defensive wall works, and he should think about that. Reese heads toward class since his bag is still inside. When he enters, he finds Barca waiting. Barca mocks him for running away like a chicken, but Reese fires back that Barca must feel strong after spending an entire week in jail. He also notices Barca looks even meaner than before. Reese grabs his bag to leave, but Barca calls out that he should be ready for tomorrow's fight. He claims only the battle will decide everything. Barca glares at him, but Reese simply lifts a hand in dismissal and walks off. Meanwhile, in jail, Muriel warns Barca that beating Reese won't be easy. He must follow her instructions or he'll be crushed instantly. And it will be the worst defeat of life. Barca tries to throw a spell at him in anger. Muriel reminds him that using magic inside a jail could kill him quicker than Reese. Barca steps back. She then mentions that Barca probably didn't watch the last match between Lotus and Reese. She pulls out a phantom stone and explains it can replay the visual information of any user. Barca angrily stares and asks who she is and why their intentions align so perfectly. She calmly replies that they're on the same side. They both want Reese defeated. And sitting in jail for a week is pointless when they can plan together. Barca willfully grabs the phantom stone. The next morning, Reese follows his usual routine until Muriel suddenly sneaks up behind him, nearly scaring him to death. She watches his training and asks if he learned these skills in his hometown. Reese continues his exercises while explaining that he created these routines to strengthen his body. All the credit goes to his master, who never allowed him to slack. Muriel asks if he learned magic control from the same master. Reese gets annoyed at the memory and says none of it was optional. His master forced him through scorching heat, freezing winters, and harsh training even when he was sick. Muriel guesses his home must be near Hades Forest, and Reese confirms it. She then asks if his master is the Great Wise Man. Reese looks at her, amazed. Muriel explains that her own mentor, the one who brought her to Genius School, told her that the Great Wise Man lived inside Hades Forest. Reese keeps working out while wondering if Muriel is a commoner like him, since she also needed a teacher's guidance to enter the school. Muriel nods and admits she never wanted to join the school at all. She preferred staying home to study magic. Her parents are wealthy traders who bought her every book she wanted and didn't like the idea of her going far away. So they hired a private tutor. When she grew older, the tutor pushed her to enroll in Genius School and practically forced her to attend. Reese complains that her story fills his head with useless thoughts. Later, he tells her to stop clinging to him so much. When he asks if she regrets coming here, she looks at him softly and says she did in the beginning. But now she has found the perfect research subject, Reese himself. Reese takes it as a compliment and remembers how empty his own life was before meeting his master and forming a bond with Alfie. Muriel offers her hand to help him up, then notices faint scars on his face. She gently asks if they came from training. Reese admits they did, though his master healed most of them. Scars always leave traces, he says, then jokes if Muriel keeps scratching her wounds during training, she will end up with marks too. Muriel touches his face and remarks that he still looks fine. Reese pulls back awkwardly. Suddenly, she spots a scar on his chest and keeps questioning, but he covers it and brushes the topic aside. Muriel grows quiet, and Reese adds some things must remain hidden, from the world and from her too. He makes her promise not to talk about it. Muriel laughs softly and then brings up his upcoming fight, hoping he won't lose. She promises to meet him later to continue their conversation. After school, the fight begins. Saradona starts the commentary saying Alfie is not joining her this time. Lotus sits near Alfie. Inside the dome, Reese seems ready to crush his opponent, and the crowd buzzes with excitement. His opponent is Barca. The arena is loud, but Alfie looks uneasy. He mutters if things go well, Reese will finish this quickly. Muriel watches without much interest. Kadena sits stiffly with her usual jealous expression. She thinks Barca will probably lose, but it is clear he will remain a noble regardless, unlike commoners. Barca has faced many hardships to reach this stage. Alfie considers her words, and Lotus quietly asks if she is bothered with Reese. Kadena replies she warned Reese yesterday not to use defensive magic like a pity move. Saradona calls for the match to begin. Kadena hides a grin, eager to see everything get exposed. Reese prepares for the first strike. Thinking that victory alone isn't the goal, he wants people to see the true value of defensive magic. Just as he readies himself, wings burst from his waist. The entire arena gasps on seeing false arms. Saradona stares in shock. Even Barca freezes, unable to understand what he's seeing. Reese grins and leaps forward with his opening attack. A flash of light explodes across the stage. His earth gauntlet strikes. Barca takes the hit but claims he is strong in close combat and won't be beaten so easily. Reese doesn't slow down and charges in for another full power attack. As soon as the fight begins, Barca stares at Reese with a harsh, heated look, while Saradona's commentary echoes around the arena. The crowd urges Reese to show something new, and the loud cheering only irritates him further. Barca's glare grows sharper, as if he wants to crush him on the spot, and the audience laughs at Reese as though he just made a joke. Barca recalls the long line of mages in his noble bloodline, how magic strengthens with discipline and legacy. He cannot accept that a commoner like Reese holds such rare talent, and he even wonders if the measurement system of magic was a lie created to deceive everyone. Reese being a top student still feels impossible to him, and he believes public support comes only from luck. But Barca has made up his mind. He will teach Reese the difference between a noble and a commoner. Reese steps forward and attacks, and Barca prepares to show him what true power looks like. Barca blocks the strike. Saradona is shocked by Reese's opening strike, and the others think Barca might actually deliver a strong fight. Reese's speed amazes her friends, and they recall this is the same technique he used against Latos. Muriel explains that Reese creates this force with double reflection, and throws his magic at full power, sharing her thoughts with Alfie and Kadena. Reese rushes in again and taunts Barca with a small provocation, which only fuels Barca's anger. Barca immediately casts Stone Wall and turns to run, tossing an insult over his shoulder and daring Reese to catch him. Reese sprints after him and tries to strike again, but Barca drops another stone wall in his path. Alfie watches with disbelief because Barca's timing seems almost too perfect. The wall collapses over Reese, and Barca confidently assumes he has won. Trapped under the wall, Reese uses reflection to push it aside. Barca answers with Rocket Stone, sending sharp stones flying toward him. The crowd gasps at the sudden escalation. Saradona can hardly believe how a simple match has turned into a burst of overwhelming force. As always, Magic Master is standing firm. Reese admits the Stonewall tactic was clever. Reese gives an odd smile and only grows more determined. Barca stands firm too, breathing heavily through anger. Now he realizes how strong and fast defensive magic can be. Even he gives Reese a mocking grin, proud that he has held his ground against every hit. He remembers the voice of the lady telling him if he follows her plan, Barca will win. Barca fires another stone rocket. Reese leaps high into the air thinking an aerial attack will stop Barca from blocking with stone wall. But instead of a wall, Barca unleashes a rain of stone fragments. Reese shields himself and drops safely to the ground. Barca gets surprised because Reese did not even need a barrier this time. Barca quickly casts another stone wall, but Reese breaks through it and forces him to shift sideways at full speed. Reese cannot understand why someone who welcomed close combat moments ago now keeps dodging every approach. Lotus wonders if Barca is trying to humiliate Reese by maintaining distance. Even they admit Barca is proving himself a strong opponent. Reese tries again to get close, but Barca continues to force him away. Kadena comments Reese is attacking with full strength, but Barca's movements are sharp and promising. It may be enough to make him a potential top player in the future. Muriel thinks Barca is trying to disrupt Reese's focus. Lotus suddenly turns to Kadena and asks if she was the one spying on them from behind the cake shop. Kadena freezes. Muriel adds that during their last visit, Kadena was sneaking around behind them like a thief. This brings sweat to Kadena's face. Muriel wonders how one person can appear in two places with two different faces at once, and Kadena fails to hide her guilt. Lotus calmly says if she wanted cake, she could have requested them. Muriel quietly decides she must keep her guard up around her. Meanwhile, the match pushes forward. Reese, carrying the invisible wings, stares at Barca with full intensity. He quickly exceeds, but Barca casts Stone Wall. Wall cannot hold this time, and Reese finally closes the distance. The audience erupts as Reese reaches close range at last. His punch lands with full force, and Barca barely manages to block it. Reese strikes again with even more aggression, and Barca struggles to withstand the impact. Their fists nearly collide and everyone, Alfie, Kadena, and Latos, watches with wide eyes. Alfie murmurs that magic reaches its limit, even used specifically for combat. Both step back for a brief moment. Reese prepares his hand gauntlet while Barca activates knuckle magic. Reese charges again, and Barca defends, but his power is clearly fading. Alfie now sees where the match is heading, because the winner will be the one who casts their magic circle faster. Reese has the edge in speed. Alfie gives a small smile, already knowing the outcome. Barca burns with anger at the idea that a commoner dares look down on a noble. He casts another stone wall and tries to escape backward, but Reese has already decided he will not let him run. Barca remembers the jailed person telling him that Gaia's spell range is short and consumes heavy power. Only this magic will give him a chance of victory. As soon as Reese gets close, Barca fires Giga Spiral straight at him. Reese quickly forms a barrier and tries to hold it in place. Granny watches from afar and notices Reese made a wrong move. Barca keeps forcing the spiral toward Reese with full power, while Reese stands behind his barrier and pushes back with everything he has. Giga Drill is an advanced magic. Barca is sure he will win today and aims to break Reese's barrier with his full power. Reese suddenly drops the barrier, leaving Barca shocked. Right after that, Reese forms a fist and strikes the Giga Drill with a magic cannon, shattering it completely. He follows with a strong and fast punch to Barca's stomach. Barca gobs and falls to the ground, ending the match. Reese Lovis is declared the winner. Saradona is stunned because this is the first time a school match ends like this. Reese hides his plan from the beginning and attacks at the perfect moment to defeat Barca. Kadena's expression turns dull as usual. Reese walks out of the arena, thinking that beating Barca is not easy. He still has much to learn. Later in the school hostel, Barca wakes up in anger and slams his leg, wondering how a normal boy like Reese Lobis defeats him. At that moment, the masked girl he met in the cell appears again. Barca frowns and tells her not to bother him, saying her past advice was too useful and he will not follow anything she says now. The girl laughs and apologizes. Barca weirdly says he needs answers to 2 questions. First, he asks how she knows about Reese's acceleration, even though Reese never used it in battle before. The girl explains Reese compresses his magic before blasting it and uses compression to propel himself backward. Barca then asks how Reese counters the Giga Drill. She explains it simply and talks about her own experience testing the honeycomb model, making mistakes again and again until she perfects it. She hopes Barca understands. Barca realizes his dream of killing Reese is reckless and he lost his chance, but he vows next time he will teach Reese a lesson. The girl looks at him like a queen and then explains why she came. Barca quickly removes the Phantom Stone and throws it to her. She barely catches it and comments that it is expensive, but Barca does not care. She confirms asking if he used the Phantom Stone during the fight. Barca admits it and notes it must record everything. She gets pleased because her work becomes easier. Barca feels confused as she examines the stone. She starts to leave, but he asks her real purpose. She reveals that she wants to defeat Reese Lovis. Barca understands her goal and asks who she really is while noticing her strange smile. Meanwhile at night, Reese trains on the school grounds. A beam of light shoots toward him. He blocks it and sees his respected teacher, the Great Wise Man, standing on the roof. Reese feels happy and asks if she is in the capital too. Granny says she comes from the forest to the school every day and returns afterward. She also mentions visiting the city for sweets and that she has not tried them all yet. Reese jokes she might die from eating too many sweets. Granny laughs and suggests Reese might be jealous. She admits she actually comes to see him. She praises him for blocking the light ball well, but warns that he relies too much on his defensive barrier. Reese realizes she watches today's fight. Granny adds overusing the barrier can harm him one day, and points out mistakes from his duel with Barca. She also says he blocked the magic cannon well but almost got hit by the Giga Drill. Reese understands her all talks and confesses that he felt scared because he could not read Barca's movements. Granny laughs loudly at his confession and tells him to thank Barca because he learns many lessons from him. Reese feels annoyed but still listens. Granny continues and tells his barrier still has weaknesses from below. Today's fight reveals 2 major flaws. She says he scatters his weaknesses like rice seeds, but most people are too lazy to notice. Only Alfie and a few teachers have noticed them. Reese comments that there are more people who know about it. Granny asks his meaning. He smiles and comments his planted seeds are growing. Later that evening, the headmaster arrives at the school. Zest gives a brief report on Reese's match. The headmaster comments, "The audience must have enjoyed it." Zest adds Reese acts like a monster as always, hiding his techniques at first, and then teaching his opponent a harsh lesson. The headmaster laughs and explains that Reese uses the magic cannon concept and mobility techniques thanks to the great wise man's training, because no student can reach this level in such an environment. Zest shows respect and adds that Reese works very hard. The headmaster studies him with sharp eyes. Zest continues and explains the great wise man passes many skills to Reese, but Reese trains endlessly to master them. He asks why the headmaster never acknowledges Reese's effort. The headmaster stays silent. Zest apologizes and leaves, saying he remains busy with research and will return soon. He lost weight from overwork and even forgets to eat while watching Reese grow. At the door, he promises to meet again. The headmaster reflects on Zest's words. There's a knock at the door and the masked girl enters. The headmaster asks if her mission succeeds. She hands him the phantom stone. The headmaster orders her to prepare for the next step and laughs loudly, saying he looks forward to the day the old master reveals his most precious jewel. A few days later, Reese trains again when the masked girl appears behind him. He assumes it is Muriel and complains that she does not visit him for many days. A stone bullet suddenly flies toward him. Reese blocks it and looks at the girl, asking who she is. She attacks again using a second element. Reese is shocked to see Muriel using both stone and fire. She comments it is unfair that he always reveals his techniques, so she will show her secrets too. She removes her mask. It is Muriel. She challenges Reese to a fight. Reese stands still for a moment, shocked by the reveal. Kadena notices there are too many mysteries surrounding Muriel. Muriel entered the school with great difficulty, but she still skips many classes. She spends most of her time inside the campus library, reading books quietly without any trouble. When Kadena once asked a teacher about her, the teacher avoided the topic entirely. Muriel still scores very high in exams, earning good marks in nearly every subject, which makes Kadena suspicious. Sometimes Kadena feels that Muriel hides her true skills and tries to maintain a low profile. Muriel also wanders around the campus like a strange traveler. Curious, Kadena goes to the unused magic practice room where Muriel often stays. Broken honeycomb barrier models lie scattered on the floor, and marks from various magic spells cover the surfaces as if a secret laboratory exists here. Kadena pushes the door slightly and steps into the dim room. She realizes that the school has prepared this space specially for Muriel. Even though Muriel is a commoner, she has a special room because her parents are merchants, but to Kadena, this still feels unfair. Kadena continues thinking about the strange connection between Reese and Muriel. Maybe Muriel wants to become the top student, but if that is true, why is she hiding herself? Perhaps she wants to focus on magic research. So many questions flood her mind that she begins to panic. After this, she goes straight to Reese in the cafeteria. Reese is eating quietly. Kadena tells him. She heard something might be going on between him and Muriel, perhaps even a match. Reese confirms that Muriel has challenged him. Lotus overhears the conversation and invites Kadena to join them. Kadena sits down, asking what they were discussing. She wonders why Muriel once seemed to like Reese and whether she used him to get close to his magic. Reese admits he cannot understand Muriel's true intentions. Lotus laughs softly and mentions that Muriel probably hopes Reese never agrees to fight her because he avoids fighting women. Reese continues eating and reminds them that everything inside the dream realm remained safe, so even a match is acceptable. But if someone challenges his pride with full force, he responds with full force. They also learn that the commentator for this match is the headmaster himself. This explains why the fight has become a hot topic across the campus. Everyone wants to know the details, yet no one truly understands who Muriel really is. Kadena listens carefully and feels this match will be very special because the headmaster is involved, and Muriel's identity remains a mystery. Meanwhile, Muriel enters her room and senses that someone might have been there before her. She switches on the light and sits at her table. She takes a deep breath and pulls out the phantom stone. She recalls her first day when Reese praised her at all. But after seeing his first fight, her medical studies feel useless because his speed and projections far exceed her expectations. He used only 2 techniques, yet outperformed everyone so easily. That is when she begins to feel drawn to him. She also remembers studying the books Dust gave her. Reese always had unusual knowledge. Lotus's words stay in her mind, especially when she asked if she only wanted to learn magic or something else as well. Muriel wonders why she actually likes Reese. She tells herself that she only wanted magic skills, but because of his magic, a soft feeling begins to grow in her heart. She does not want to hide it, which is why she once placed Reese's hand on her chest and invited him out for a meal. All these memories replay in her mind. Then the headmaster enters her room and informs she skipped her afternoon class. Muriel sits quietly and addresses him as sensei. He reminds her that when no students are around, she may call him master. Muriel finds this confusing, as sometimes she calls him one thing, sometimes another. The headmaster says he is the master of the school, and warns that if anyone discovers their connection, trouble will follow. Muriel knows she joined the school because of his constant push. She asks why he has come. Placing the Phantom Stone, she tells him that the video verification is complete and that only tomorrow's match will decide. She also comforts him, saying there is no need to worry because she understands how Reese wins his fights and has calculated everything. Headmaster believes Muriel will perform well. He mentions special guests will attend, making the match more exciting. He also advises her not to get nervous in front of a large audience. Muriel stays calm and says she is ready to face Reese and even the entire audience behind him. Dist chuckles at her words. The headmaster turns to leave but pauses, wondering how Muriel began to like Reese, even though she initially considered him a troublemaker. When Reese came into her life, she began to trouble him instead. He asks what she plans to do after the fight. Muriel thanks him for the opportunity and says she will move forward in her own direction. Afterward, she will end her bond with Reese. A painful feeling touches her heart, and she presses her hand to her chest. The next day, the battle arena is filled with loud voices. Reese enters, noticing the excitement everywhere. Alfie stands near the edge and tells Reese that people have come to cheer for him. Reese teases him, asking if Alfie is also one of those fans. Alfie casually asks if Reese thinks he can win against Muriel. Reese oddly replies he cannot see many chances, and he knows very well Muriel has 2 attributes. Alfie reminds him. It is also possible that she unraveled all the secrets of his magic, because she saw the phenomenon behind magic, cannons, and acceleration. Reese wonders if he has essentially dug his own grave. He tells Alfie not to worry because he knows how to handle the situation, and that anyone in his way will be taken care of. Reese walks toward the arena. Alfie shouts behind him, hoping Reese wins because next time he wants to try beating him himself. Reese steps into the arena. Saradona lifts her mic as the crowd cheers louder. This match is between the strongest and undefeated candidates of the first year. Headmaster Dist appears at the commentator's stand as the announcer. The special guest is the Great Wise Man, invited by the headmaster. Saradona looks at her and asks who she is. Granny replies Saradona can call her Bishujo-chan. Saradona jokes into the mic, calling her a little girl. Reese turns toward her, shocked to see Granny there. Muriel also looks at her in surprise. Reese says she is his master. Muriel understands she is a great wise man. That's why the headmaster was talking about having fun. Muriel becomes even more stunned, and now understands why the headmaster is so excited about the match. The headmaster waves toward Muriel. She quietly wonders what anti-aging secrets the great wise man might possess. Reese laughs at the thought of the headmaster as a commentator. Muriel mentions she is the disciple of headmaster. Reese looks confused but recalls that Muriel once mentioned a private tutor. The headmaster tells Granny that their 2 students will face each other today and hopes she enjoys the match. Granny smiles and asks Dis to wait for the result. Zest becomes the referee. The noble students cheer as Saradona announces the fight is about to kick off. Kadena and Barca watch from the crowd. The wise man remarks this is a fight between their favorite students and that the outcome will be very interesting. Reese and Muriel stand ready, prepared for their match. The headmaster looks at Muriel with hopeful eyes. He glances at Reese and tells Granny that Reese is her favorite student. His movements are sharp and calm, almost like his teacher. Granny keeps eating popcorn. Saradona watches her and wonders why she is eating during the commentary. When the popcorn finishes, Granny turns her attention to Reese. She tells the headmaster that he has more experienced training students. The headmaster agrees and says he has always trained his students with full effort. Muriel faces Reese and gives a small nod of thanks. Reese remains confused. He does not understand why she is thanking him. Muriel explains that she has watched all of his magic closely and now plans to defeat him. Reese feels happy. He finds Muriel very confident. Lotus gives a signal indicating the match is about to begin. Before starting, Muriel mentions the last thing she heard about herself, that she behaves differently when excited. Reese does not understand the meaning of the remark. Zest raises his hand. The match begins. A bright light flashes from behind Reese. Saradona is shocked. She feels that something significant is about to happen. Kadena notices that Reese has become aggressive against Muriel. He moves ahead at high speed to attack. Muriel lifts a wall of flames. Reese passes through it and rolls badly to the other side. Because the hot spell affected him a lot, Reese gets angry at her. He tries to get close by hurling left and right. Muriel fires flame bullets to block him. Her defense looks strong. Lotus gets stunned at Muriel's spell. Reese anyhow encounters the attack safely. The crowd enjoys the match. There is the wonderful battle of offense and defense. Reese's starting move was alright, but the slap of Muriel is really surprising. Granny appreciates Muriel. She mentions, acceleration needs a slow build-up to reach top speed. Granny suggests that if Reese attacks at full speed, the flame wall might not stop him. But Muriel has watched all his videos. She understands how his acceleration works. Saradona glances at the headmaster, waiting to see whether Muriel will use fire or earth magic. Alfie, Lotus, and the audience are captivated by the battle. Reese praises Muriel for her skill, declaring she is not a magic otaku. She says she is only pushing her limits and is not a weak mage. Reese laughs and decides to show his real strength. Muriel responds with a small smile, agreeing. Lotus seems upset. Reese quickly moves forward and swings his fist. Muriel blocks with a stone wall. Reese jumps into the air using his hand gauntlet and throws a large magic ball at her. Muriel watches his movement carefully and launches flame bullets. Reese sets down and realizes that Muriel does not want him near her. Kadena whispers to Lotus that Muriel looks clever. Alfie guesses she may have received advice or assistance. Barca observes the fight quietly. Reese changes direction, trying to disturb Muriel, but she keeps throwing magic bullets at him. Lotus recognizes the pattern. It is the same trick Reese used again and again. Alfie notices it too. There are chances Reese is about to rush and kick. In long and short, he is aware of his actions. Suddenly, Reese stops and changes his action. He activates his acceleration wings and charges at full speed. Muriel builds another flame wall. Reese is too fast. He breaks through the flames and nearly grabs her. But Muriel dodges and slips away. The audience gasps, sensing that something big is about to happen. Reese reaches near the boundary wall, crossing Muriel. Muriel fires a shower of stones, stone cannon diffusal. Reese blocks the stones and sets to rest for a while. Kadena watches with wide eyes. She is surprised with the way Muriel hurled stones at Reese. Muriel suddenly begins laughing wildly. Her voice echoed with uncontrollable amusement. Reese is stunned and motionless. Everyone freezes, including the commentators. Granny calls Dis to see his pupil. The headmaster tells Granny that he has always tried to correct Muriel's strange habit. Granny blames him for this behavior. Muriel keeps laughing, she tells Reese. She never imagined a student like him could exist in the school. Reese notices that her tone has changed. Muriel adds she already knows all his weak points and believes his magic cannot reach her. Reese pauses for a moment. Alfie thinks Muriel has figured out all of his moves. The headmaster gives a small, mocking laugh. Reese refuses to give up. He prepares for another attack, moving without using acceleration. Muriel throws fire bullets, but Reese tries his best to dodge all. Muriel is surprised at Reese's movement without the acceleration magic. Muriel casts fire, creating a massive explosion. Reese blocks it with his defensive wall. He realizes that this might not be just ordinary fire magic. Muriel channels all her force into her next trick. She intends to test Reese's defensive magic, the same type he used against Barca. She launches Panzer bullet magic at him. Alfie shouts from the audience, warning Reese to dodge the spell instead of blocking it. Reese recalls his own weakness. He depends too heavily on defensive barriers. He tries to block the attack. The moment the magic touches his wall, a brilliant light bursts forth. The story shifts to the day when the headmaster went out with his student for some work. Suddenly, he noticed something falling from the sky and catched it with great effort. It turned out to be a small, cute girl who nearly crashed to the ground. He never expected something like this to land in his hands. Her parents soon arrived and explained that she had been practicing at home when a magical blast sent her far away. Her father, the founder of a Woodrow trading company, contacted the school and requested a private magic tutor for her. The pupil said that the little girl had only 2 attributes and was new with magic. Dist realized from the explosion there is much hidden in the girl. The headmaster thought for a moment. An idea formed in his mind and he decided to teach her himself. His student felt shocked. This is how Muriel's journey with him began. The scene shifts back to the current match. Reese's barrier shatters, sending him flying backward. He hits the ground hard. The entire audience freezes because nothing like this has ever happened before. Saradona stares at him, trying to understand what kind of attack struck him. The crowd looks confused. Lotus cannot believe his eyes. The headmaster explains to Saradona that this is explosive magic. Someone with 2 or more attributes can combine them only if they have strong control. Granny joins in, explaining the honeycomb pattern of the blast and its weak point. She says that if someone targets one spot, the damage does not spread, but Panzer Bullet can pierce the honeycomb pattern because its shape forces the hit along a straight line. Alfie listens carefully, thinking about Reese and his teacher. He wonders there is more to her than he thinks. The presence of Reese Master has haunted him for over 10 years. Lotus starts crying upon seeing Reese's condition. Alfie inquires what is causing her such distress. Lotus wonders why Alfie does not seem worried about Reese. Zest calls for him to stand. Muriel laughs when she sees him down. Alfie feels shocked for a moment, but relaxes when Reese rises again. He steps forward to face Muriel once more. She gives a wild laugh, acting surprised that he is still standing after taking a direct, magical hit. She claims she will put him to sleep forever, but Reese does not care. Zest looks confused about how he can still stand. Muriel glances at Reese and comments that he has a strange habit. He absorbs power from outside sources. Reese becomes surprised and the others look confused. Alfie recalls the stone cannon diffusal attack moment. During the first hit, Reese could not bear it, but later he created a barrier. Alfie calmly says Reese could have made a barrier earlier, but he did not, meaning he ran out of magic power. The strange part is how he forms another barrier so soon. Alfie explains that mages restore their magic by absorbing external energy, matching their own attribute, like Lotus restoring water or Alfie restoring wind. Lotus wonders which attribute Reese absorbs. Alfie gives a small laugh. Muriel explains that Reese can absorb huge amounts of external energy because he has no attribute. This becomes his only attribute. Reese laughs and admits she figured out his skill faster than he expected. The headmaster tells Granny that a non-attribute mage can recover magic quickly. Granny replies Reese already had this ability before his recent display. Zest grows uneasy, realizing Reese should further increase his magic power after his training. Reese thinks that one day the world will learn about him, and the concepts of defensive magic and non-attributed will change. Some students have already begun noticing. Muriel tells him that his maximum magic power is still low compared to hers, and she knows this clearly. Kadena feels lost, as all this is new to her. Questions fill her mind about the magic measuring device. Alfie explains that the device gave a trick reading and it was not final. The first reading showed Reese's real magic power. This worries Muriel for a moment. During the fight with Barca, she understood everything. When Reese survived the magic cannon and punched Barca, she knew he had already run out of magic. Muriel explains that his power is lower than the average mage. He can only use 3 reflections and 1 acceleration. After that, he can only form barriers. His power is so low compared to hers that she can predict his next move. Lotus, her friends, the headmaster, and Saradona are shocked by her analysis. Muriel ends the explanation and launches explosion magic at Reese. The blast pushes him back. She follows up with Panzer Bullet. Reese starts running backward. Muriel thinks running is his only option, but he cannot run forever. Lotus feels the fight is becoming one-sided. Alfie is impressed by her use of compound attributes. This makes the battle special. Lotus asks Alfie how long he will stay quiet in this tense moment. The headmaster enjoys the fight, noting that Reese is running at full force but will not last long against Muriel. Granny laughs, understanding something different. Reese realizes he underestimated Muriel because she created a plan after studying his fight with Barca. He cannot believe she formed such a strategy. He decides to fire up and use his casting reflection magic. Muriel becomes shocked as bright light spreads around Reese. He places his hand on his chest. She struggles to comprehend what she is witnessing. The headmaster and Saradona jump in surprise. Alfie becomes excited because Reese finally reveals what he needs to win. Granny smiles proudly, seeing that he is finally using the power he requires. Reese channels magic into his chest. Muriel holds her head, unable to imagine such a move. She notices old scars on his chest. The blast lifts his strength. Zest freezes in shock. Reese gives a sharp, mocking laugh and tells himself that he will now fight seriously and rise even higher. Muriel stays shocked because Reese talks about growth in a strangely confident way. His acceleration wings unfold, and a magical shield forms on his arm. He maintains his true fighting style and tells her that he will show how this story ends. He rushes toward Muriel at great speed. This time, he is not using normal acceleration. He is using multi-step acceleration. He tries to hit her, but she slips away, and his punch shatters the ground for nothing. Muriel fires Panzer Bullet, but Reese blocks it with his Giga Fortress. She attacks again, but he blocks that too. She realizes that this barrier is no longer the honeycomb type. Muriel warns him that he is wasting too much magic and still will not last long, but Reese ignores her. She wonders how he is using magic cannon and acceleration in a way that differs from their normal purpose. Saradona watches the match and admits she cannot understand this turn of events. It almost looks like a trick that harms the user. The headmaster freezes for a moment upon hearing this. Kadena and Lotus shout at Alfie, who clearly understands the situation. Alfie explains that there is a spell through which a person can refill magic power. This effect is called the magic light phenomena. It occurs when magic is compressed inside the body, increasing its speed. Only high-rank mages can control it, and the effect does not last long. The tactic looks impossible for Reese. Granny talks about the secret inside this compression. She explains how Reese can push more magic into his body, even when it is already compressed. Alfie wonders how Reese can launch magic cannon repeatedly when the spell comes from inside his own body, because it seems as if he is hurting himself. Kadena recalls that Reese has no attribute and that his power comes from external sources. She also remembers the trick with the measurement device. Alfie confirms she is correct, but notes that this technique, transcend, is extremely harsh on Reese's body. Lotus starts crying and begs others not to try copying Reese. She also feels that Reese was not even serious when he fought her. Alfie explains that their fight never reached the point where Reese needed to use his trump card. Barca watches the match with burning frustration, wishing he had something like this to turn the tables. Muriel looks at Reese and remarks that he still hides many secrets. Reese returns her gaze sharply. She admires how tough he is, and the marks on his chest reveal how many times he has used a magic cannon on himself. Reese tells her that he already understands all her tricks. Muriel enjoys watching his magic and finds it valuable. Reese hears this and rushes forward using acceleration. Muriel dodges through a seismic wave. Instantly, Reese activates a second acceleration to change his direction. This shocks Muriel because she never expected a second acceleration in a single breath. She avoids the explosion attack again and jumps far away. On the other side, she starts laughing loudly. She finds it amazing that a person with no attribute can use defensive magic in such a grand way. She forms her defensive barrier and invites Reese to show more of his abilities. The next moment, a loud blast shakes the entire arena. The headmaster looks at Granny and calls her a clever old master. She already understands how dangerous Transcend can be. Granny explains that Reese became skilled only after surviving harsh training, where he learned to explode magic inside his own body while still young. The headmaster thinks Reese is nothing more than an experiment for her, but Granny refuses the claim. She reminds him that she avoids eye contact because he always imagines things on his own. Everything she gives Reese is knowledge, not tricks for cheating. She recalls a day when she returned home and found Reese on the floor, coughing blood. She lifted him onto the bed and told him that the technique he was learning was no ordinary task. He would have to work much harder to master it. This gave Reese the courage he needed to learn quickly. Granny explains that she only helps him stay on his path. A teacher can only light the way for a student. The headmaster falls silent, realizing that Granny never teaches him a single skill. Everything Reese uses is already inside him. Back in the arena, Reese rushes forward again and uses his technique to strike Muriel. The headmaster is shocked. He already knows this ability, yet Granny had recognized Reese's potential long before him. Now he no longer sees himself as a good teacher. Reese attacks. Muriel steps back quickly and admits that she no longer wants to win because she has already reached her purpose. Reese becomes confused. The fight should not end here. He remembers how she forced him to face his past and how he might have died in the Hades forest under Granny's training if he had never met Alfie. Now, Muriel will stay buried under her own books. Muriel does not believe what she hears, but Reese continues. He says she must still expect to be his girlfriend, yet he intends to remain her enemy. Muriel stares at him with wide eyes. Reese explains that they should stay enemies because books will end at some point, but their rivalry can last forever. Muriel tells him to speak like this only after he defeats her, but he keeps going. He suggests they use whatever magic they still have left. Muriel steps in with Panzer Bullet. Reese moves forward from the other side to defend. The moment he tries to tag her, she jumps away and throws a grand explosion at him. Their sudden movement shocks Zest. It feels as if Reese and Muriel are both preparing for the final strike that could finish one of them. The arena is packed with students, and the fight between Reese and Muriel now feels like a festival. Everyone watches as if the two are almost playing with each other. The headmaster observes Muriel from above. Kadena cannot understand their strange composure. Both of them seem unusually relaxed, and she feels the whole situation is very complex. In Muriel's childhood, there was a time when magic felt like a sugar carnival for her. Her magical power and stamina had reached their limits, yet she still wanted to win at any cost and defeat Reese. Now she feels a similar excitement again. Muriel launches a flame cannon at Reese. He knows she will not let him get close, so he begins attacking from a distance. His magic cannon moves with immense power, shocking Muriel because he still has so much energy left. She barely escapes the attack. Her long-range combat power is almost depleted, so she fires a panther bullet at full force. Reese opens his defensive barrier and blocks every bullet. It is clear that this is no easy task. Muriel gains the benefit of seeing the limits of Reese's endurance. But Reese suddenly changes his strategy. One of his wings disappears. Lotus gasps in shock. The light on Reese's chest grows dim. Muriel smiles. She has been waiting for this moment. Now Reese seems to have no other option left. She rushes forward at full speed. The headmaster feels that if Muriel cannot endure this moment, her barrier will break. This is the time for Muriel to use her trump card. Lotus screams as Reese places his hand on his chest again and begins reloading. Muriel freezes for a second. Alfie realizes that Reese not only increases his speed with his wing, but also gains magical power from it. When the trans center stays active, he can fight at his highest limit. Muriel is shocked. Reese's power is beyond what she imagined. Yet she knows that if she attacks first, she will lose the fight. Reese prepares his blast with full force. Muriel readies her spell. Both glare at each other, the tension signaling the final moment. Reese is about to release his blast when Muriel pours all her power into a single massive explosion. Zest freezes in shock. The headmaster and Granny are stunned by her overwhelming power. Lotus holds her head, unable to process the scene. Muriel uses her maximum explosive power. Now it all depends on whether Reese can endure it. He pushes his defensive barrier forward and slices through the burning fire. Muriel's eyes widen. Reese breaks through the flames and strikes with his blast. Muriel tries to defend as quickly as she can, but her screams escape anyway. Reese continues advancing toward her without stopping. Reese breaks through Muriel's magic barrier and passes by her. Muriel still smiles and tells him that she enjoyed fighting with him and hopes to face him again one day. Reese replies that it is fine because he will always be her enemy. All of their friends remain silent, watching the scene unfold. Saradona announces that the fight has finally ended and declares Reese the winner. The headmaster claps and tells Granny that her student fought exceptionally well. Students around the arena whisper among themselves about Reese's skills, convinced that no one will ever doubt his power again. The headmaster laughs and remarks that Reese will soon become a master, just like his teacher, Granny. Granny humbly responds that Reese still has a lot to learn. Muriel lies on the ground, unconscious, yet a smile remains on her face. The headmaster remembers the first time he met her. He saw her talent and her strong desire to learn magic. He felt she could become a major researcher one day. On that day, he told her that there was a whole world beyond her books, and she must come to school if she wanted to truly learn. She joined the school after that. Now he tells her that he has no regrets about what he did as her master. He also tells Granny that Reese is outstanding. Granny admits that she never expected anyone except Alfie to make Reese use his transcendence power. The headmaster freezes for a moment and then bursts into loud laughter because the old master has finally praised Dust's student. Two men lift Muriel and carry her away. As Zest passes Reese, he comments that he doubts anyone could survive Reese's trans center and that it is not without danger. He also mentions that Muriel is very strong. Reese already knows this, yet he is happy that he came to the school and learned so much. Later, Muriel lies in her bed when the headmaster visits her. She smiles and tells him that she lost. The headmaster asks how she feels after losing to the disciple of the great wise man. Muriel admits that she feels proud because she finally saw something beyond her dreams and fought until her last breath. Yet she also feels a strange lingering pain inside her. The headmaster notes that she rarely appears troubled, but losing to a magician of her own generation must feel different. Muriel then makes a request to the headmaster. 3 days later, an announcement is made in class. A noble class student is being moved to the regular class. That student is Muriel. Such a change only occurs when a student is sent down from a higher class. Zest states that if anyone has a problem with this, they are free to fight Muriel directly. The headmaster allows it. Students avert their eyes. Muriel walks to the seat next to Reese and asks him to make room. Reese looks at her in surprise. She explains that she joined because she is genuinely interested in the class content, though everyone suspects another reason. She adds that she wants to learn more about him and is now under his watch. Reese, shocked, turns his face away, head down, yet he feels glad to have come to this school. Alfie, observing from the other side, thinks that perhaps Reese will become the hero of a light novel now. Lotus arrives at school feeling stressed about her midterm exams. Suddenly, she sees Reese and runs to him. She asks if the rumor is true. Muriel has joined the noble class. She recalls that Muriel's fight with Reese was thrilling to watch. Sitting in class, Lotus thinks that if she scores well on the midterms, she might also join the noble class. She glances at the noble class students nearby and notices Muriel acting in her usual strange way. Reese asks what is going on. Alfie explains that there is a small problem. The place where they used to train is now filled with students preparing for exams. Reese figures that half the school must be busy because of the practical exam. Kadena uses the chance to speak, saying that she is good at solving these problems. They reach the arena, now a bustling training area. Students practice everywhere. Another rule is active. Duels and fights are forbidden during exam preparation. Kadena stands in the center and remarks that she feels strange being in the arena. Reese asks if it is her first time there. Kadena grows angry and clarifies that it is not because she is afraid of fights, then falls silent. Reese begins training with his spheres. Muriel watches and is impressed by his juggling, running over to compliment him. Kadena comments that Reese has been ignoring Alfie ever since they arrived at the arena. Reese hears her, but does not respond. He notices the group of girls gathered around Alfie and feels an unbidden twinge of jealousy. He feels bad, but reminds himself that he is the #1 first-year student. He wonders why, if Alfie is ranked 3rd and still attracts so many girls, no one gathers around him. He considers whether his face might be the problem. Suddenly, 2 girls call out to Reese. Muriel and Kadena notice that the girls apologize to him before leaving. Muriel pats Reese's head and tells him not to worry about others. Kadena adds that those girls only want to be near Alfie and have no interest in magic. At that moment, a boy appears from behind, begging Reese to teach him magic. He is almost crying and keeps pleading. He explains that he entered the noble class with great difficulty and that if he fails the midterm, he will be removed. Reese asks his name. The boy introduces himself as Tom. He mentions Muriel took his seat. Reese wants to give him advice as a class topper, but after observing Tom, he finds nothing impressive. Tom seems unlucky in every way. He grows confused as Reese stares at him. Reese thinks fame is not in Tom's fate, and that he resembles a background character. Tom explains that everyone in his family can use magic, yet even at school people laugh at him. In the noble class, they call him a sewer bug. He wants to shock everyone by scoring well in the midterm. Reese tells him to stop talking and focus on training. He instructs Tom to start with running, wanting only to get away from him. After a few days, the midterms end. The results are announced, and Reese, Kadena, and Alfie go to check them. Reese is first, Kadena second, and Alfie third. Kadena and Alfie feel jealous because their academic side is weaker, but Reese knows he cannot relax. Granny's efforts helped him, but he decides to polish his studies even more. He checks Tom's rank and finds he is near the center of the list. Lotus arrives, greeting Reese happily. She complains that he did not check her name. She finds herself right under Muriel's name in the noble class. Muriel also scored well. Lotus remarks she had hoped for high marks. She also expected Reese to beat Alfie in academics, but Alfie ranks above him in that part. Lotus says she can now apply for a promotion battle in which one match can decide the switch between a normal class student and a noble class student. Even if she loses, she will remain the lowest rank in the noble class. Reese suddenly thinks of Tom and worries that he might drop out. He remembers something and tells Lotus that he needs to go somewhere. Lotus shrugs, saying she will not follow him every moment. Muriel appears from behind and covers Reese's eyes with her hands. Reese scolds her. At that moment, Yuria arrives and informs Lotus that a letter from her home has arrived and is in the office. Lotus looks surprised. She goes to her room, removes her uniform, and sets it aside. She touches her chest, noting that it feels tighter than before. Perhaps she is growing. She thinks she should have been born a boy if she had a choice. Lotus lies on her bed and tries to draw the honeycomb magic barrier Reese taught her. She thinks that if she gets into Reese's class, she will have more chances to be near him. She also reflects on taking her brother's place. The brother who died 10 years ago in an accident. Then she remembers the letter and her first duel with her father. She opens the letter and freezes. Tears stream down her face as if her father had died. A few days later, the promotion battle arrives. Everyone goes to watch. Kadena asks Reese who he thinks will win, Lotus or Tom. Tom enters the arena for the first time. Reese feels bad for him but hopes Lotus wins. Tom has some talent for the noble class, but Lotus is stronger. She should have been in the noble class from the start. If she fights poorly, she could still lose. Suddenly, Lotus appears behind them. Kadena asks why she is here and not in the arena, but Lotus explains that a boy above her in the normal class got priority. Alfie is confused. The commentator announces the opponent's name is not on the board, but the headmaster has signed the document. The first-year student is Theria. Reese, Alfie, and Kadena exchange surprised glances. Muriel comments that she knows every student in the school, but she has never seen this boy. Lotus rushes forward to get a better look. She sees a cute boy with a soft smile gazing at the audience.
Here I am, know it's been a